before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom.
Hello.
Oh, 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 freedom. Oh,
Hello.
over me.
Hello.
And before I be a slave,
Yes.
in my grave and go home
It only means you.
and be free.
Oh shoot, I disappeared. What'd I do?
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom, freedom, oh, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me, over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Hello, host. This is Sean Glaze. I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah.
The person who invited me to this said that it's for Black parents, but I wasn't sure if it was exclusively for Black parents. Is it
No.
exclusive? Okay,
It's
cool.
for parents from all over. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to check. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have, thanks.
And make sure you follow the directions here and sign up for register, please, by changing your name to include the breakout session that you hope to attend. So you'll see the breakout sessions on the left side. If you go into the participants button on your screen, you can change your name. So rename yourself and make sure that you include the breakout room that you would like to attend after the speakers are finished. So we'll give you a minute to do that while the music plays.
Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me, over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Okay.
Great. Again, as another reminder, please
select the breakout group you wish to attend by renaming yourself and adding the number that you wish to be a part of in the breakout sessions. Also, if you need Spanish interpretation, that is available. If you do not need Spanish interpretation, you still need to select English on the bottom of your screen so that everyone may hear you correctly and that you can hear the presenters correctly. Maricela, could you repeat that in Spanish? Maybe. Does everyone see the interpretation thing at the bottom of your screen?
It's not showing up on mine, but I might be an anomaly.
Or mine, this is Kevin.
I can't see it either.
It doesn't show on mine. This is Tracy, and I'm on an iPhone.
Do I have to be on a computer?
It just now popped up at the bottom of my screen. I can see it now.
Great. Make sure you select English and mute original audio. Shannon has put the breakout sessions in the chat box for everyone to see for if the slide is not showing up on your screen. We're rotating back and forth for a few minutes to get everybody in and ready to go. Maricela, let me know when you are ready. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Jess, go ahead and play the video.
I can return to school. I will go back to school. I can go back to school.
I can return to school.
I can go back to school.
Huh?
I can go back to school.
Well, it was originally supposed to be 94. It's only supposed to be 88 now.
I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video until everyone's muted.
I will return back to school.
I will go back to school.
I can return to schools.
I can return to school.
I can return to school.
Jess, I have no sound. Did you select English?
To school.
We can hear it, April.
You guys can hear it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
you just can't mute the original audio.
Can you hear that?
We can't hear
No.
it. No,
Yeah.
can't.
Heard it before. We
I
can
can't hear it.
Okay.
Y'all, thanks for your patience. Thanks for your patience. This is our first time doing this.
School. I can.
Yeah, we could hear it before, but whatever you did.
My kids back to school.
I can return my
There we
child
go.
back to school. I will let my kids
Can
go
you
back.
start it over, Jess?
I feel ready to be.
Okay.
I will go back to school. I can go back to school.
I can return to school.
I can go back to school.
I can return to school.
I can go back to school. I will return back to school.
I will go back to school.
I can return to schools.
I can return to school.
I can return to school.
I can return to school. I can return to school.
I can return to school.
I can return back to school.
I will send my kids back to school.
I can return my child back to school.
I will let my kids go back to school.
I will feel ready to be back in my classroom, connecting with my students.
My name is Denise Ibrahim, and I'm a mental health counselor and mom of 3 in the Edmonds School District. I'll be ready for my children, as well as the children I'm seeing in my practice, to go back to school.
Hi, I'm Dr. Molly Monahan Kreischman. I live in Gig Harbor, and I'll be ready to send my kids back to school.
We can return to school when?
When I feel that the curriculum is diverse and it's relatable for me as well as my diverse friend group.
When a curriculum is more diverse and we actually learn what happens in history and not lies.
When we start to incorporate ethnic studies into our curriculum, K through 12, and not the whitewashed version that caters to our white students' comfort.
I can return to school when it's taught that the White Lion ship carrying slaves was the first ship to arrive in America, not the Mayflower. I can return to school when our curriculum includes LGBTQ+ studies for more inclusive education.
Where curriculum is reformed, ethnic studies are taught.
Our history curriculum accurately represents my classmates and myself.
When NSD creates and implements education that covers the racism and racial inequity of both the past and present of our country.
I can learn about Black history when classes and what we learn about is more diverse.
When the curriculum for children of all backgrounds and all lives are being taught, are being learned, are being understood, and they're gaining this knowledge and growth as they grow in the education system.
When our curriculum starts to resemble the diversity of our state, our nation, and our world.
When diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of the mandatory curriculum for freshman students.
I will go back to school when we get more and better education.
I can go back to school when we diversify our curriculum to include authors of color and non-Eurocentric perspectives. We need to teach students about race, about racism and privilege, and how it pertains to us both in history and in the modern day. These issues are a part of students' day-to-day lives and as such need to be a part of the curriculum.
I can return to school when people are held accountable for their actions.
I can go back to school when I'm able to walk down the hallway and not have monkey noises be made about me, because as a Black woman, I have big lips, and the principal can actually do their job and punish these people for being racist and protect me.
When there is a zero tolerance policy in every school for slurs and hate speech.
When our institutions are ready to listen to the minority students and take action to combat not only blatant racism, but also daily microaggressions.
Zero tolerance policies are put in place for slurs and racially charged hate speech.
When we start having conversations with our students and teaching them how to be anti-racist. When we no longer let microaggressions and racist comments fly over our heads.
I can go back to school when my Black and brown classmates don't have to live in fear of racially charged discipline. When students of color are protected from racial discrimination by specific policy.
I can return to school when our community is actively working against racism instead of just sweeping it under the rug.
I can return back to school when the bullying stops, because kids at my school bully way too much. A kid will get bullied and go home crying to their parents saying, "A kid bullied me." And when the kid returns to school, the bully starts to get physical with the child, and it does not end well.
When better measures for bullying, for safety, and for targeting children of colors are in place.
And when all schools have teachers that will teach all students without being racist.
When they start holding teachers accountable for their racist actions.
When staff and educators can commit to learning about whiteness and anti-racist development.
And when our educational leaders across the state commit not just in word, but in action to disrupting the historical and current day systemic racism that exists in our educational systems.
When NSD takes accountability for the racial discrimination that happens on its grounds and in its administration.
And when teachers finally address the significance and presence of white privilege and systemic racism in our modern world.
When I know that there's an effort to educate teachers and administrators about the racial injustices.
My kids will return back to school when the basis of their education does not reflect the same assimilation practices enforced on the prison yard.
When the school-to-prison pipeline is completely eliminated.
I can return to schools when police officers are taken off our campuses and are replaced with mental health resources that are available to every student, teacher, and staff member at every school.
Cops aren't on campus and where campus is safe.
When there are counselors instead of cops.
I'll return to school when police officers are removed from campus. When mental health is favored over police fear-mongering.
When student resource officers are replaced with mental health counselors who are accessible to all students and staff members.
I can return to school when I feel that my emotional as well as my physical well-being are being considered.
No kid should return back to school until the pandemic is harnessed.
When we are not in a pandemic.
I don't know why this pandemic's not stopping.
When the health of teachers, students, and staff is prioritized over economic profit.
When the health and safety of our kids, our educators, and our families are no longer a gamble.
When I am assured of the physical and emotional well-being for all children, educators, and staff.
When I know that all aspects of my health are being considered. When advanced courses and WANET programs are encouraged for Black and Brown students.
And every student feels that they have equal learning opportunities.
I like engineering, and I want a school that will encourage me to learn about these things because they will see my talent.
More activity in our curriculum so that all kids are able to feel that they can participate and feel healthy as well as safe.
I would send my children back to school when teachers of primary education received a respectable pay rate.
I can return to school when more teachers of color are hired.
When a diverse faculty and administration become a priority.
And when I can learn about people like me from people like me.
When my students of color feel safe, seen, and supported. When my students of color have a platform to safely share their stories, be truly heard, and respected and loved as the quality human beings they are.
When the trends of my chronically absent Black and Latinx classmates and peers are taken as a sign that they feel unsafe, unrepresented, and undervalued in our education system.
I can't return to school until I feel safe and others feel safe for being themselves and for being who they are.
I can return to school when everybody feels safe and heard.
Bye. See you later.
Oh, you gotta love the babies. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erin Jones, and I've been involved in education for almost 30 years now. Everything from a classroom teacher to a coach to assistant state superintendent to a district administrator and now a consultant. I spend about 40% of my time in school buildings with students and about 60% with adults talking about racial equity. We're here because a couple months ago, Joel Ryan, who's the head of Head Start ECAP to the state of Washington, he and I were in a class together. I taught in his class and then he taught in my class, and we talked over the phone and said, what if we were to do a gathering of early learning, K-12, and higher ed? Because what we both knew working in state government is often we get pitted against each other for funding. When there are crises that happen in our system, we get pitted against each other. And we said, you know what if we were to create one united front? If you're not muted, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So we said, what if we were to create a united front and really create a space for voices to be centered that often aren't? So for our students, for families, for Black, Brown, Indigenous folks, for special needs folks, ELL folks, how do we, especially in this moment, center the voices of those that have not been centered, who often don't get invited to decision-making tables? How could we do that? And that's really the genesis of this conversation today, is that the birth of that. At the time, I happened to be doing an online course in racial equity, and a group of those folks have continued to stay together since I shut down that class. They're called the Equity Fishbowl, and they have taken on much of the work of today, convening students and adults. And so you will get to meet many of them in your rooms today. I want to ask you today to prepare yourself to be brave. I'm going to ask us not just to be safe today, but to be brave today. And here's what that means. I want us to center the voices of young people as much as possible. So adults, especially decision makers. I want to encourage you today to listen. I want you to major in listening and let these young people be their brilliant selves and share with you their expertise on the world that they live every single day. And so this is a day of really celebrating the voices of young people and also the families of young people who maybe aren't ready to step up yet. And so what you will see today is we're going to have several speakers that come out and speak. And then you will go to a breakout room. And if you have not yet chosen a breakout room, what I need you to do is go to your participants button and change your name and add to your name the number of the breakout room that you would like to join. We have the list of breakout rooms is in the chat. So if you would go look in the chat if you've not yet chosen a breakout room. And when all the speakers are done, I know it's hard to pick one. When all the speakers are done, you are going to have the opportunity to go into a breakout room and actually listen to some other voices on an issue that you have particular concern about. We want you to go into those breakout rooms and really practice listening. We want to encourage you. There you go. There are the breakout sessions there. We want you to listen. We want you to realize that everyone has a different truth. So if you hear someone share something that is not your experience, listen today with curiosity, especially those of you who are decision makers. Listen with ears of curiosity. Realize that there are a bunch of young people from middle school to high school. Actually, I see my elementary. I see you, Donna, on here.
What's up? You're doing a good job.
We've got some elementary students here. We've got middle school students and high school students. I want them to be able to be their bravest selves. And what that means for us as adults is we got to give them props when they say something amazing. And when you have a question, think about who you're asking the question for. Use your chat feature adults to ask as many questions, but try to leave as much of the space for young people to share their voices. You are going to practice something called grounding in. So when you get to your breakout sessions, you will practice a strategy that we use in all of our equity training around really getting yourself focused in and calm and kind of letting go of all the stuff of the day. Our goal today is not to fix education. We're not going to be able to do that. Our goal is to learn and to share ideas. And we hope by the end of today, especially decision makers will leave more curious than they were when they got here. And I hope for decision makers that you will also make a commitment to connecting to some of the young people and to the parents who are in this space, and that this will become your model for making great decisions, listening to people who are not often engaged in the conversation. For the young people, I hope that you'll walk away from today really proud of yourselves, feeling heard, feeling seen. That's the most important, that you walk away, but also with some hope for the future about what will come next. To that end, I get to introduce one of my great friends, my co-conspirator in all of this, who's been doing so much of the back of the house stuff. Fernell Miller, who is an educator and an equity warrior who has convened many of these young people for hours and hours and hours. Fernell Miller, take it away.
Hi, Erin. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. And I would love to have us start with that brave space and do our first ground in practice. And so that means square yourself up, put your feet on the floor, find a focal point, put your cups down in distractions. And what you're doing is bringing yourself present. We're getting ready to do the hard work of heart work. Get out of your head, stop thinking about all the side agendas and items that you need to do. And as you pull the air in and out of your body, you just bring yourself more present to this moment and connect with each other. Let's begin. 30 seconds. Breathe in. And each breath brings you closer and feeling connected to all of the folks that are here today, as well as to each other and those who are not here today that need to be a part of this conversation. Feel them and channel them in. Last big breath in and blow it out. And again, welcome, I'm Fernell Miller. I've been an educator for the past 38 years, educator, youth activist, and advocate. And I'm the founder of The Root of Us. And I want to start with a quick poem. It says, "You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made. And people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late. before you're 6 or 7 or 8. You've got to be taught who your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. And that's from the musical South Pacific, Rodgers and Hammerstein. And where I joined the conversation in the Equity Fishbowl was with Joel and Aaron, where we were discussing the heart of our children, of our youth, and we're not tending to their heart and the traumas that they're experiencing just from being separated from school, witnessing their own parents' trauma, just the way that they feel that they are not heard, not being asked to have any input in their educational life. They felt small and not listened to. And so when I was, I get the honor of working with young Black women. And when I check in with them, I use a weather report. And we use weather because we all experience the weather, and we can bring so many different scenarios into it. And it helps us just give language and decharge those emotions that we're feeling so strong. And so as I was doing the weather report with them, I began to hear something I've never heard. I began to hear healing in their voice. It was just even a few days within the first week of being out of school and separated from friends and teachers and all, and the panic and the where am I going to get my tools and get online and all of that fury. And instead of being more anxiety about it, I heard a breath. I heard them taking breath for the first time, meaning the relief they felt from being out of the exhaustion from oppression, the weight of assimilation, the racism that they experience on an everyday level, that they were detoxing from the white norm. And
we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Now I need to start over. I'm so sorry.
We lost you for now.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I haven't done that before, but thank you. I've been joined the conversation with Joel and Aaron talking about the pandemic is for us. It didn't happen to us, it's for us. And I get the pleasure of working with young Black women. And when we were separated from our school, and instead of being in a panic mode about how to get things going, there was a huge relief and a sigh in their breath about being out from the exhaustion of oppression, daily assimilation, racism, and microaggressions on a daily basis. They hadn't ever felt the space away from that. And the pandemic being everybody had to be away from each other. The ironic thing about them being able to take a breath for the first time ever and not feel the weight of that pressure. And then everybody else as well, of the pressure of performing and showing up in a certain way is exhausting.
Wow.
So we were talking about tending the hearts of our children, of our youth. And so that's where the survey came in. I was able to hear that breath and hear their relaxation of a different life that they hadn't experienced before by using a weather report and weather we all experience that gives us different language to be able to express our emotions. It takes a little bit of the sting out of it and just being creative with that. And so the survey came from the Fishbowl group that took them through a whole day. And when they took the survey, the kids of color said, I've never felt so seen. You're asking me things finally that I want to talk about that nobody ever asks me. Nobody ever wants to hear what I have to say. And so that's where this event was born, out of us centering those voices and experience that are furthest away from equity and justice and just being able to be seen at all. And so I'm just honored to be able to spend that time with them. One of the kids said that school should feel like love, not a chokehold with a smile on it. And I haven't heard anyone say or publicly acknowledge that to our students, our youth, our babies, that I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't see you. I refused to see you. I lied to you about things, and I let everybody believe a lie about you. We need to honor and admit, because all of that they feel viscerally, the data that we have stacked up, they're the living, live, breathing example and voices and experience of that data. And even though they don't show it in numbers and cents and percentages, they feel it viscerally in their bodies and carry that. And so I'm just so excited for you to get to hear what they have to say. You already got to hear a snippet. We could end the conference on just that video alone, but there's so much more. And the students who've participated already, their messages, they want you to teach us all. We want those funds to reach us all and provide a system, an educational system that can and will support them all. And those who are most in need, take their lead. They're the ones who should be in the lead of all this work. And that's why this conference is here. This conversation is here. This example is here. We're going to listen. We're going to learn. Let them lead. One of the things that I got a text late at night that says, thank you. Thank you for giving us this purpose, this time to speak. This is all we've ever wanted. This is all we've ever wanted. And so I'm just proud to be able to present them and let you have a taste of what I've been enjoying all this time. Let's go. All right. Thank you, Erin.
So I know Amanda's supposed to be up next, but I'm going to squeeze Sharon Navas in to give us a few words because she needs to leave for another meeting. So Sharon Navas is my friend. She is the Executive Director for Equity and Education Coalition. Are you there, Sharon?
I am here.
Yay! Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm trying to do the fabulous hair situation. Since I can't do the fabulous shoes to try to be as tall as Erin. Thank you everyone for the honor of being here today. I am coming to you from unincorporated King County, and I'm in the Kent School District. So for those of you just up in the know, Kent yesterday declared that the first part of the year is going to be on online remote learning, which, you know, there's some people that are really happy about it and some people that are really, really upset about it. I think one of the things that's the hardest about this conversation in terms of the pandemic, the shutdown of the school system and how our government has failed us as communities of color is that we really have an opportunity to re-envision what school looks like. We have an opportunity to re-envision what education means for ourselves, for our kids, for our society. You know, and we have an opportunity to ask our students, our kids, our future, what do you want? What is it that you are looking for? What at the end of the day makes 12 years of an investment of your life worth it? And we're not doing that. And it's a shame because we keep saying, as communities of color, as women, as trans, you know, we keep saying, not about us without us. You need to include the folks that you are going to most affect. And we don't include students. We never include students in our communities. We never include parents or guidance counselors or, you know, people that are taking care of our little ones. From early learning to higher ed, it's always the adults making the decisions that are in the room. And every once in a while, we say something like, do we have any students here? And then there's nothing, there's no one. There's, oh yeah, you know, and we have to stop accepting being an afterthought. We have to stop accepting that decisions are going to be made for Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian, immigrant, Native, undocumented, trans, LGBTQ. You know, we have to stop thinking that those decisions are going to be made and they're going to be the right decisions for us because they're being made by people that aren't us. They're being made by people that have never lived our experience, that have no idea what it's like to walk down the street as an LGBTQ Latinx queer woman who is just trying to survive the day. And, you know, we're trying to figure out, like, how do we survive this pandemic and try to go to school, and our families need to go to work. And I keep hearing folks who are decision makers talking about kids who decide not to get online, or who decide that they don't want to invest in their education. And right now we have to change the narrative around what education is for. The education system is not for the workforce. The education system is not for the big companies. The education system is for us, is for our students, it's for our kids. It should reflect our history. It should reflect our culture, and it should reflect what we want in our future, which is, students that can make the best decisions for themselves, students who can make the best decisions for their families. And right now we have leadership in all parts of government, whether it's your local community, your school board, at the state level. They don't look like us. They have no idea what it's like to be a single mom trying to go to 3 different jobs, taking the bus and making sure that kids. So I beg you,
That's who was calling.
I beg you and I ask you to.
It's right here. You gotta fucking tell me.
Woo. I beg you and I ask you to move towards representation, whether it's, and for the students that are on the call right now, I know people are going to be like, you're too young, or, what do you know? You know a lot. Like, it's been 700 years since I was in high school. You know so much more than any of us do. And your voice matters. It absolutely needs to be at the table. And if, I want to end with this. Someone once told me that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I say BS to that. Absolutely not. We have better food. We can craft our own table. We can invite whoever we want to. We can do barbecue. We can do Sunday dinners. The reality is that the table wasn't made for us. And the table doesn't want us. We can make our own table. We can invite our own friends, folks that know what it's like to be us, and we can make decisions and really move our students and our communities into a government and into a society that is about us, for us, by us. So I'm honored to be here today. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to be on the call for as long as I can. And, I am looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, so much. Amanda, are you on the call? Amanda is Black Student Union. And I would like for Amanda has a really great perspective to share on college students and what it is like for especially our Black, Brown, Indigenous college students to go back to school and really the challenges of that opportunity. So Amanda, would you share a bit about your own personal experience in the last 5 months of the pandemic?
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I go to Bellevue College. I serve as the social media and outreach coordinator. So I'm always talking to our members and asking them about what they want to do for BSU. And I have very good relationships with a lot of the people. And it seems like what our campus in particular is focused on is how can we get back to school and stay 6 feet apart, because that's what's going to keep students safe. But they don't understand that we're already not safe. Just within the last month, I've had 5 of my very, very good friends from Black Student Union have to move out of the state of Washington because of this pandemic. They had to go to North Carolina, they had to go back to Philly, they had to go to South Carolina because they were on the brink of homelessness. They didn't have technology at school, so therefore they couldn't sign up for spring quarter. Therefore, they didn't have the financial aid check that they normally depend on and work on. And they just had to drop out of school. They're couch surfing because they just either lost their job or got like a decrease in hours and couldn't afford to pay rent. And then that goes to another thing. our school, as I'm pretty sure all schools, got the CARES Act for students to receive aid. And when I was reaching out and I sent out this email, I'm like, hey guys, like sign up for the CARES Act, you can get money just as long as you have a FAFSA. I would say 60% of our Black members said, I don't have a FAFSA. I don't know how to fill out a FAFSA. And that's the thing, is that we teach Black and brown students how to accept loans, but not how to get free grant money that they rightfully deserve. There are tons of workshops throughout the quarter on sign up for loans. Those loans that many students pay for the rest of their lives, never fully pay back, but they can accept free money, but it's like they keep it on the hush. And that I don't understand. Last speaker brought up really good points of like, there were so many people in our Black student union that depend on the bus. They don't have a driver's license, they don't know how to drive, they don't have a dependable like ride to and from school. So they take public transportation. Well, that gets them more prone to the virus because there's so many people going in and out of the bus. And it's like, should someone have to compromise their safety for the sake of an education? And it also brings up another point, is that a lot of students within our Black student union, as well as El Centro, which is like the Latinx's community for Black student union, we call it El Centro on our campus, they're all just like, honestly, I can't even afford tuition to begin with, so I don't even know if me doing it online is even worth it. You know, like, should the tuition prices be a little bit cheaper? I have really good friends that go to like, it wasn't UW, but Michigan, that were athletes. And my friend had called me, she's on the track team, and they sent her home when her season got canceled. They were like, sorry, you can't play track. We don't want to pay for you to be in housing anymore. You need to go home. And it's like, her being a track athlete is the only reason why she goes to the school that she does, or else she would have joined the military. She can't afford an education. So then it's like, now you're literally taking away opportunities, these ways out that we work so hard for. I was talking to a couple other friends of mine from the University of Washington, and they were saying, you know, I want to get in the Foster School of Business, but the only way I'm going to get in is if I have to revisit my trauma, talk about how I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community, talk about how my struggles of being from a Black family that was low income. And that's the thing, it's like, why do we as a community have to revisit trauma? Why do we have to go through it just to get a quote fair opportunity? And then when we are at these nice schools and these nice universities and these, you know, renowned majors, my friends tell me all the time they're being questioned. It's like, they'll say the right answers to everything, and their professors like, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure that that's the right answer? So it's like, it's not even a fair opportunity. It's like, we have to work so hard to get on the same playing field, and then people still don't want us there. Even with the whole thing of how ICE was about to send back the international students because we were in remote learning, because apparently international students don't have a right to an education because we're in a global pandemic that's causing us to be remote. So it's just things like that that I want my campus and other campuses to take note of. It's like, students come to campus not safe before this whole pandemic happened. If you keep us 6 feet apart and put us in plexiglass things, that's not going to make our lives better. We have, some people are really young mothers and single mothers and have kids to feed. We used to have night childcare for the moms in BSU that were single mothers, so they could go to their night classes at like 5 or 6 and then get free childcare. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be eliminated now because the pandemic won't be safe for, you know, dozens of kids to be roaming around together. So then it's like, where does that lead them? How can they safely go to work and watch their toddler without forking over $800 a week for childcare? That's literally people's whole paycheck for 2 weeks just to keep their child safe. So I don't know, it's just things like that I want my campuses and to just address, is that students already come in these spaces not safe. We are not resource. There is no equity. So keeping us, like I said, 6 feet apart and distant isn't going to make our situations and our livelihoods better. There's more that needs to be done, questions that need to be asked, and quite frankly, the resources are there. It's not hard to set up a virtual workshop to teach and sit down with students and their parents on how to properly, apply for a FAFSA. That's not hard to do. If you can do it for loans and give people ridiculous interest payments, you can do the same thing for free money that's rightfully theirs. So yeah, that's just what I come into. I just try to be, with the role that I have in BSU, the voice for those who, quite frankly, are afraid to speak up. Like, we have a lot of African international students in my Black Student Union that publicly don't come out and say things because they fear their deportation or immigration status. And that's not right. Like, someone shouldn't feel like they can't say or speak up to what is right because they're afraid of being sent back home, or, like, yeah, it's just not right. So that's just what I'm here to do and why I'm here today.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for all that wisdom. We are going to transition to a school board director. Drayton Jackson is with us from Bremerton School District. Drayton, if you could share with us your perspective as a school board director. I know we have several of you on here, but you get to represent school directors for the state of Washington today. Go ahead, Drayton.
Thank you. Erin, you were an inspiration of
yes.
actually running.
Drayton.
Can you hear me?
Hold on. Maricela, can you hear me?
Okay.
Take a breath on Amanda's. That was excellent. Everybody take a breath. Beautiful.
Yeah, very true.
Thank you for that truth.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If everyone didn't hear Maricela, she's just reminding we have interpretation on the line and to speak slowly so that she can share your message accurately.
Super. Thanks for that reminder. Okay, Drayton, go ahead. Thank you for joining us today.
Indeed. Thank you. And Erin, like I said, you were inspiration as far as running for the board, so just keep that in mind. I thank Amanda and Sharon too for speaking, because a lot of the truths in both of what everybody was saying. I had the pleasure of being in the WAWASA as a parent ambassador and representing early education, and then sitting as a student body president for Olympic College and getting that experience, and now transitioning to K-12 and sitting on the board. Well, one of the things that I really want to stress to all of us on here, reason why I ran for the board is because my son had an issue with racism in our school district. And I remember going to the board meeting and seeing nothing but older white people up there. And then one young person that was, who I wound up taking his seat, who had children in the school. But what I said to myself is, I can't be mad at anything that is going on because there's nobody sitting there to give them a perspective. And one of the reasons why I ran was basically to hopefully get into a debate with somebody, but no, I ran unopposed, but because I wanted to bring up issues that was going on in the district and really bring it to light. But, as circumstances has it, I ran unopposed and wound up getting on the board. And what I found getting on that board, there was a lot of perspectives that they did not have. And the voice needed to be there. And I think that that's the key that is so amazing to it. Sharon said it best. It's not about sitting at the table. It's about bringing a new table there and resetting. And I think we have a new superintendent, Erin Prince. And I think she and I, the first woman superintendent that we had, and she came with a new perspective. And I think that was the thing with she and I coming together, that we're bringing a different voice to the table, something that they haven't thought about and haven't seen. And I can't knock any of the decisions that are made if nobody's sitting at the table saying, that's not right. And so for me as a board member, I think we're in the best time of our lives, because now policies can be changed. We can push the status quo and say, you know what? Maybe we need to rethink all of this and really go to a perspective of understanding this is not working for everybody, especially our Black and brown students, especially our Native students, especially our island students. And these are the things that I think is very important in our discussion that we're having now on how do we change those policies, not adding things, but changing them completely. And I think that that's what this, this situation has brought to light for us, is that we have an opportunity to change things. And I think learning from Joel and learning from being a parent ambassador, that policies change. A lot of things that get done is by policy changing. And my reason for sitting on the board is to challenge our school district, challenge our board, and challenge other school districts to think about changing the way that they have. I will say this. I believe that in Washington State, we have a lot of comfortable laws in our school districts that allow, quote unquote, for racism to exist. And I think that our thought pattern has to be, what are our children going through? If we see it as adults, what are our children going through on a daily basis with biases and racism? And I think that a lot of times us as parents, we don't really understand the psychology, the social, emotional aspects that they go through trying to exist in that vacuum. I've talked to so many students, and I had the pleasure of just being able to, hang around them, because I love hip hop, so that's probably what it really is, and getting a perspective that I don't want to go back to Mr. Jackson. Now, parents, different thinking, but a lot of the students, especially Black and brown students that I spoke to, said that they don't want to go back, because now for the first time, they have that understanding that I am free to think, but also I don't have to deal with that berate and deal with that racism face hand. I just asked our Black Student Union to send over letters to our school district. I cried in the first 4 letters that came from our students of how much racism and biasness that they go through in our district. I sent that to all of our board members and our superintendent. And I told her to share it, with the teachers. And I think it's a wake-up call for them to realize things have to change. It's not, oh, we have a lot of work to do. And now let me say that, I'm tired of hearing it. We have a lot of work to do. We've been saying that. It's not about we have a lot of work to do anymore. It's about the work needs to be done. And I think that we're in a time now that if we don't do this work, our children are going to move us out of the way. And I'm happy that they are taking the lead and they get it. You have white students and Black students that want to exist in the same place and in the same space. And we as adults are messing that up. And that's what you see now with a lot of the younger white students wanting to be friends. And adults are getting in the way of that. And I think that that's what I'm hoping, even today we have those hard discussions, but not just feel away, but say, you know what, you're right, things need to change. And so I thank you guys for allowing me to be here and represent my school district.
Thank you, Drayton, so much for your thoughts. Sandra, ¿estás aquí? Sandra.
Sí, está bien. Sí, sí te escucho.
Bienvenidos.
Ya.
¿Ya está?
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Sandra.
Yes, we can hear her, Maricela.
Sí, está bien. Ahorita lo hago.
¿Vale?
Sí, está bien.
Sí.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Sandra y soy del distrito del Highland, del condado de King County.
Am I translating? I can if we need to. So this is a parent from Highland School District. Bienvenido, Sandra. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you, Maricel.
Aaron, can you hear Maricela, Aaron?
I can only hear the Spanish speaking, so I may need to translate. Because I can't hear Maricela.
Did you select English as your language, Aaron?
No. Oh, you here. Okay, so I'm just gonna trust them. Y'all go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ujú. Ajá. Soy una madre de familia y estoy preocupada por lo que está pasando y el regreso a la escuela a los niños. Me preocupa cuando mi hijo esté solo con sus compañeros, ya sea en la hora del recreo, en la hora de comer o haciendo una actividad física. Él es un niño pequeño de kindergarten. ¿Habrá personas que estén observando eso, cuidándolos, haciendo respetar la distancia? ¿Y cómo lo harían? Porque son niños pequeños que va a haber un momento en que se van a olvidar.
Mom, I want meatloaf. Mom, give me
Otra cosa también que me preocupa es la educación y el desarrollo del idioma que es el inglés. Porque en la casa hablamos español y es parte de nuestra raíz. Pero a pesar del miedo, entiendo que mi hijo tiene que socializarse, tiene que interactuar y trabajar con sus emociones con otros niños. Ahora, quiero comentarles algo de las clases en línea. Las clases en línea fue muy difícil en tratar de averiguar cómo ayudar a mi niño, porque todo fue videos grabados. Especialmente con los maestros que hablan inglés. Todos los trabajos eran en inglés y no en español. Sugiero que los maestros sean un poquito más descriptivos en los videos para poder ayudar a mi hijo. Hay otra cosa más también. Cuando mi niño veía los videos del maestro, él se emocionaba tanto que pensaba como si estuviera presente, hasta le conversaba. Creo que los maestros también deben trabajar en eso, por más pequeño que sean los niños. Porque ellos forman parte de su vida y al éxito. Otra cosa que quisiera agregar es que me gustaría ver algo diferente en cuanto pase esta pandemia, crear una comunicación. Entre los maestros y los padres para poder ayudar a nuestros hijos. Ver una manera de trabajar un poco más clara para poder entenderlos. Brindarle seguridad a los niños. Y que nada sea una barrera para el éxito de la educación.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Erin. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias, Sandra. For those of you who were not able to hear in the English translation, I want to share as someone who speaks 4 languages. It's a little uncomfortable to not be able to understand, but I want you to appreciate that for so many of our students, this is how they experience school every day. So we intentionally wanted it to be in Spanish and then translated. We didn't get the technology exactly right, but so I apologize for that. But Sandra, gracias, muchísimas. Thank you so much for sharing your voice. We're going to close out with Joel Ryan, and we have a pre-K parent that he's bringing with him. Brian, go ahead, Joel.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us for this amazing opportunity to make sure the voices of students and parents are being heard when decisions about back to school are made. So I'm really thankful for that. And thank you for all the students that have joined today. It's really amazing to see, and your energy and your passion and your motivation. So really inspired by that. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about early education. And so again, I know there's a number of folks out there that work in early education, or you have a parent, you have a child that's in preschool or utilizing childcare. What I wanted to let you know in a few minutes before I introduce our parent is that early learning is an equity program, and the work we do in ECAP and Head Start is really critical in making sure that all kids have a chance to succeed and have an opportunity for their best possible life. 2/3 of the kids that are in the ECAP program right now are children of color. You might not be aware of that. 10 to 15% every year are children that are currently homeless or had been homeless in the past. Last year, about 150 children that have been thrown out of other childcare settings and are now being served in Head Start and ECAP sites. Just really proud of the work that we do, supporting kids with special needs, kids that are involved in the child welfare system. And we really make a difference in helping all kids get to kindergarten prepared and ready to learn. Now, over the last couple months during this pandemic, our providers have been open. They've been open for on-site care, especially for essential workers. They have been providing services for families where maybe the child needs more support at the program. And in some cases, it might not be even safe for them to be at home. And those Head Start and ECAP staff are there to support those kids on site. The other kids are being served in a remote option. And I know a lot of you have a lot of mixed feelings about how the public school system did in terms of remote options. What you should know is that Head Start and ECAP programs, I think personally have done an amazing job of supporting kids, but also families, which is a big difference that you see in Head Start and ECAP programs. Every week there are Head Start and ECAP staff checking in on the family. So not just the kid and making sure, and there's been a lot of fun stuff going on around Zoom learning and dance parties and packets and all the things you would think about in terms of classroom work. But it's amazing to see the work that we do with families, providing them resources, making sure there's food if they're hungry, making sure they can apply for unemployment if they need it, and just being there during a very difficult time. But mostly I want to make space for our parent. We have a terrific parent joining us, an ECAP parent from Everett, Byron Jackson. So I wanted to turn it over and kind of hear his perspective. Because again, as Aaron mentioned earlier on when we just opened up, the voices of parents, the voices of students, the voices of people of color are not represented in these conversations about back to school. And they should be. And I hope this is the start of that conversation. I know districts will be making decisions, policymakers will be making decisions soon about what going back to school looks like. I have a 12-year-old myself. I'm worried about her safety. I'm worried about what a remote option looks like. I'm worried about what services she'll get or not get. I'm worried. I'm a parent. It's not easy to work from home and to teach a child. My wife does a lot of it with my daughter, but you know, it's challenging, and it's challenging for me. I know it's challenging for a lot of people, especially if you're dealing with a lot of extra stressors, if you're dealing with poverty, if you're dealing with racism, if you're dealing with a lot of different things. Back to school can mean a lot of different things for different people. But what I think is so important is to make sure the voices of the people who are left out of these conversations are heard. I hope this is the start of that. And so I want to turn it over to Byron Jackson, an ECAP parent, to share his experiences and his thoughts. So thank you again for everyone joining us, and I look forward to the conversation later.
Hello, everybody. I am Byron Jackson, and actually, I'm now a former ECAP parent, as I got my last kid out of ECAP and now starting kindergarten in the fall. I do have two other kids. I have a fourth grader and a first grader, both went to early learning education as well. So I have been through what I was walking with my boys. Oh, sorry, I'm a little nervous. My early learning education background, I started with my oldest, who was in Head Start. Actually, all three of my kids were in Head Start. My oldest was through Head Start only. So he did not get to experience ECAP. My two youngest was able to experience both Head Start and ECAP. So they got the taste of both of those. As far as I'm concerned, I was on policy council with Head Start when we lived in Indiana before moving back to Washington. And I am currently, I am a parent ambassador, a current parent ambassador, and two, I am on the Snohomish Early Learning Council. My experiences with early learning, these through the past 4 or 5 months. Our teachers were great. They did have remote learning. They did do some learning through Zoom. I couldn't think of the program. And sorry.
That's okay. You got this. You got this.
Don't be sorry, Byron. You got this.
It's just us and your closest 400 friends. Don't even worry about it. Byron, you speak truth. Tell them about the work that Head Start and ECAP does with parents and you know, really engaging you.
Well, I can tell you this. From the Head Start program in Indiana to the ECAP program in Washington State, they're both, in my experience, great. The Head Start in Indiana helped actually my oldest son begin the process of his autism diagnosis, which it took way too long for that to occur. But thanks to one great teacher there, he also noticed the same problems that we was noticing. He hardly said any words, and we kind of got that ball rolling. My boys in ECAP, they did wonderful. My now first grader, he was doing his ABCs, was writing his name even before he started kindergarten. My youngest, well, he's a bit lazy, but he knows his stuff also. He thinks because he's the baby that, we're going to do the work for, which is not going to be the case. But now that I've got my last one in the kindergarten, it is important more than ever that all children, no matter race, color, no matter money that you earn, everybody should have access to early learning education. So I actually reached out to one of the candidates who's running for the 44th district just the other day, just asking her thoughts and feelings on early learning, and she's a big advocate for it. And she'll be, she probably gave my vote come the primaries that's coming up in a couple weeks. So quick plug, make sure you vote.
Thank you, Byron.
Byron. Yes. Oh, sorry. Just to close out, early learning is very important. All kids should have it because it would give them the head start they need to grow as they go through their education process. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your voice. I know that has to be terrifying. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to transition into our breakout rooms. And I know we had planned, I'm making an executive decision because I have the camera. We had planned to come back and debrief, but we're not actually gonna do that. What we're gonna do is I wanna give students as much time as possible to be in their breakout room. So what will happen is you are going to be sent to breakout rooms in just a minute. You will have until 1:50. You'll have until 1:50. I need for each breakout room, somebody needs to be taking notes, please, so that we're not able to, I need you to mute yourself if you're not, please. Please mute yourself. Can we mute everybody and then I'll unmute myself? Oh, there we go. We're good. Okay. So I need someone in each breakout room to make sure that you are taking notes, so that we can come back. And our goal is to get out some sort of newsletter or blog so that if you have 2 or 3 rooms you want to go to, and you can only go to 1 right now, you will be able to get as much information as possible. So here's what I want. You're going to go back to you're going to be sent out to a breakout room. Here's the list. If you've not yet identified which breakout room, please choose that right now. Please choose that right now. And then 1:50 we'll be back. If you can't stay the whole time, stay as long as you can. And then we're going to close out with one of my great friends, Dr. G, is going to close us out with a great spoken word when we come back. But go ahead off to your breakout rooms. You have until 1:50. Remember, center the voices of students and their parents, please. Take it away. Let's send people off to their breakout
Sí,
rooms.
el 10.
Okay, I am finalizing the rooms. If you have not selected a number, you will be left in the main room, and that room will be for supporting English language learners.
You're stuck with me.
Here we go. You should get an invitation.
Okay. Have people been sent out yet? Who's in my room? Hey, Maya.
Yes.
Just making sure you were here. I don't know who else. We got a whole bunch of people here.
Yeah, ready to rock and roll.
Jess, can you stop the screen share of that?
That would be awesome. Okay. So, oh, hey.
Sorry to interrupt, but I asked for breakout 1 discipline and they're trying to send me to breakout 3 for standardized testing. This is Elijah. Can you send me to discipline, please, which is 1?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, April. You are the mastermind behind it all.
I'm
so,
Well, I'd love to stay and hang out with Erin and all y'all here. I kind of did want to go into 8, if that's possible.
Hey, April, this is Amy. I had to disconnect and connect back on.
Hey, April, this is Kevin. Am I in 2?
Nope, you're in 10. You didn't select the number.
Okay, so do we have any students in this ELL group? Who are my students? Any students in this group?
Sí.
Ah, sí. ¿Quién? ¿Quién es?
Sí, está bien.
Number 9?
Sí.
Number 9? Can I be number 9?
¿Cuál era el tema de esta sala?
Sí, es ELO. Es número 10, pero está aquí.
En español. Ya no se escucha en inglés. No sé qué moví.
Okay.
Y no quiero tocar nada.
She doesn't want to touch anything. She's like, we will just listen in English. Lucy, you're meant to be in another room as well, right? Yeah, Lucy's supposed to be in room 8.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be in group 8.
Okay, I'm trying, guys. If you didn't do it right before we started,
Can I be in group 9?
There's only one of me. I'm trying.
I like to be on group 9, if it's possible.
I'm working on it.
Thank you.
You're doing great, April.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Well, I want to share before we start. While she's still managing through that, I want Maya, if you could introduce yourself. Maya is my student co-facilitator. If you could share, Maya, where you went to school because you just graduated, and then where you're headed, and why you decided to be part of it.
Sí, te escucho.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. Yes, hello everyone. My name is Maya. I went to Inglemoor High School, which is in the North Shore School District in King County, and I just graduated this past June, and I'll be attending the University of Washington, Seattle, beginning this fall. And the reason that I joined this group, personally, I have never been in an ELL class, but I think that it goes to show that just because you haven't experienced it yourself doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn more about it and learn your privilege. And I do know people personally who have been in the program, and I know that it does need some work. So I'm really excited to discuss today and see what everyone's thoughts are on this and everyone's personal experiences, since I know we're all coming from different places. Yeah, should be fun.
Thank you, Maya. Do we have other students on the call? I want to make sure I start with students, and then once all the people have been placed in their rooms, we're gonna do a little ground-in activity. But do we have any other students? I want to make sure I recognize students. Oh, go ahead, John. Is it Jana?
It's Yana, yeah.
Oh, Yana, yeah.
I go to Inglemoor High School too. I'm going to be a junior next year, and in 7th grade I moved here from Finland, and I couldn't really speak English really well, and they put me in a normal English class, and that was kind of problematic. I just took a few tests in the ELL classroom, and I apparently passed them, and then I had to go to normal English class. And so I think that wasn't really helpful, because I tried to talk to the teachers through all of my, since 7th grade up until now. I've been telling them that I don't really speak English that well as the rest of the students do, because I didn't grow up here. I don't know the language that well. And I still get the same workload, the same treatment as everyone else. And I think that needs to be worked on.
Thank you for showing up. My mother is from Finland.
Oh, great.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, any other students here? I want to make sure I hear from students first. Any other students here? Okay, how about parents? We're gonna go students, parents, decision makers. Any parents that are here of ELL students?
Sí, yo soy madre de familia. Soy Sandra.
Y Sandra, sí, de Highline. Sí. ¿Y tienes un hijo? Sandra.
Tengo
De
dos.
5 años.
Una niña de 11 y un niño de 6.
Ah, bueno. ¿Y en qué escuelas? Which schools?
Mi niña va a la Renier Pre y mi niño está en Hazel Valley.
Oh, yeah. I spoke there this year. That's cool. Okay, very cool. Any other parents of ELL students here? Any other parents of ELL students? Okay. Let's see.
Erin?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Lupe Mendoza, and I'm from Walla Walla, Washington.
Hi,
Sofia Esteves.
Yes.
I have 2 boys that are classified as English as a second language.
Yeah.
So my soon-to-be 2nd grader and my 5th grader, which I do a lot of advocating, and ironically, I just found that out that they were classified, and that's 2 out of my 5 boys just recently, early this year.
Wow. So you didn't know that until this year?
Correct. I didn't know that until I opted them out of state testing, and then the district pulled out, well, they've been being tested on this, and I was like, well, for how long, and why haven't I been notified about this? And so that's been very interesting.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. And that's Walla Walla School District?
Yes, that's in Walla Walla.
Oh, yeah.
Walla Walla Public Schools.
I am very familiar. Very familiar. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Any other parents of ELL students?
Sofia Esteves.
I'll see. Okay. And where are you?
I'm in Hazel Valley.
Oh, as well. Okay.
Yes. And I have to tell you that my situation is very special because I have my granddaughter in custody since the 2 years old.
Wow.
And I've been having her in the Head Start, which is a really, really great program.
Yeah.
But now it really concerns me, how can I do our old lady with 6 years old girl will be in 1st grade.
Yeah.
And like I know Sandra, and like I said, yes, I agree with all the things that she said. And for me, it's really concerned, how can I teach her? How can I teach her English? And Spanish either, because I don't remember the math and all of those things. So it's so hard for me right now, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people in the same situation.
Wow. Thank you so much thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Any other parents in here? Any other parents? Okay. How about educators? Miss Sherry, I see my sister girl, my running sister girl. Hello, Miss Sherry. Could you at least share where you've been an educator?
Sure. I'm currently don't have my own classroom right now. I've been an instructional coach most recently, and I've worked in private schools and attended private schools almost my whole life. And I will say that I grew up racially illiterate, and I'm on the learning journey. And I like Maya chose this room because I have never experienced being an English language learner in school as a second language. And so I just, I'm here to learn, and thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Are there educators in the room that go ahead and introduce yourselves? You can just unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Ellison. I'm the Native American interventionist in middle school, Lincoln High School in Port Angeles. I do have two students that are currently in the district here that I work in. They could kind of be considered the ELL because we're native, although our language that we speak all the time is English. We do have a lot of column language that we speak and are trying to learn. So our brains kind of do this code switching, and I'm happy to be here and hear the things that you are sharing, and I'm so excited for this work. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the things that Jessica and I spoke about yesterday is, you may not be aware of this, but in Washington State, if you're Native American, you actually can qualify for ELL services here. So it's something that a lot of people don't know, but something that I think needs to be taken advantage of and understood by lots of people. Other educators that are in the room that want to introduce themselves? Go ahead, Becky, Miss Frank, go ahead and introduce yourself. And then Kate. Oh, you're muted.
I'm gonna pop in. There's a couple of things in the chat. I don't know if April's seeing the.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Bunker Frank, and I am an educator through the field of speech and language pathology. Worked with the ESD in a couple school districts early in my career, but spent my largest professional time in a hearing and speech clinic. But also I am a policymaker serving on my local school board for 12 years and the State Board of Education for 16. I chose this area for several reasons. I have been as concerned, not in the same way, in a very different way, for the English speaker who is learning a second language. And the emphasis that we need to consider putting on for all of our students and the value of knowing a second language and what it takes to learn a second language and participate in a second language. Being from Yakima, of course, I am highly interested in our population here that's engaged in English as a second language. And just one other point, Erin, as you well know, I'm most interested in having the required to attend school days be balanced around the year, the 180 days, so that our students who are learning English and our English-speaking students learning a foreign language have a chance to have continuous connection to their learning instead of annually planning for a loss. And now, look, we have been away from the classroom 7 months, and I hope we never go back to planning a school calendar year where we plan for our language learning to be disconnected for 3 solid months in the summer. I think 6 weeks is ample, and then continue education around the year. Thank you.
Awesome. Kate, go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. I am an elementary school teacher in Kent School District. I've done 3rd grade for several years, and I'm moving into 4th grade this year. And working in the school that I work in, typically between a quarter and half of my class is considered ELL. Often I have 2 to 3 students who speak almost 0 English. So I will say, you know, I found that students that were more like a tier 2 ELL and exiting ELLs, I was able to reach pretty well during distance learning. I mean, I tried anyway. I found the students who were brand new to the country, it was very difficult. And I tried to translate documents and do as much as I could, but I found that it was very difficult to connect with them and to help them through online. Like, I don't really know. I guess I'm here mostly for suggestions because I want to do the best that I can do and get students involved in all ways possible. But, you know, I also only have so many hours in the day in terms of, you know, if I have 6 languages in my class, I can't translate into 6 languages every single lesson. So, or maybe I can, and I'm making it harder than it needs to be. So I think I'd like to, you know, just get input from others on what would be helpful and resources perhaps other people have used, because I obviously am worried about students falling through the cracks. And so, yeah.
So I'd love to hear from some students. What do you think solutions would be? So if you could imagine a school space where your needs as an ELL student or your friends who are ELL students, what would you imagine, particularly during this pandemic and when things aren't normal? Students, what do you think?
I personally think that like ELL teachers should check in with their students more. And like even after they leave ELL, when you get like a big assignment, like a book to read in English class, just to like check in that you know what it's about, what's happening in there, and that you can work through your assignment.
Thank you, Yana. Yeah, very good. Any other students' thoughts that you have? And students, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I can. Sorry,
ahead.
I can speak. Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I think that there has to be kind of a change in mindset, in a sense, because we all bring something different to the table, especially for people who don't speak English at home, or they're in the process of learning it, or they, even if they do speak English at home, if they have another language that ties them back to their, you know, their parents or their heritage. Language is a really big part of everyone's identity, and it's inherently how we communicate with other people. And so there should be more value placed in that. And maybe it's not about, you know, forcing a student to assimilate by putting them into an English class where they aren't comfortable conversing with other students, because, you know, I've never been in that situation, but I imagine if I was thrown into a classroom of a bunch of people who spoke a language that I didn't speak, or I only spoke very little of, that it would be very difficult for me to make friends, and it would be very difficult for me to participate in, say, a study group, or in clubs or extracurriculars or anything like that. And so there needs to be a bigger support network, and it has to come from the bottom. It has to come from continuously asking students for feedback. So sessions like this, but also reaching out specifically to people in, you know, educators here, reaching out to your students and your parents in your classrooms and asking them what they want, because it's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's going to be different for every single student in every single situation. But I think keeping an open mind and not being afraid to get creative with it, and just kind of having empathy, I think, at the core.
Okay, I'm trying to capture all of this in notes. Empathy at the core. Okay, any other students or parents? What ideas, what has worked? What would you say is not working at all that needs to stop? So either way, what has worked? What would you recommend needs to stop?
Sí, ¿puedo opinar? Ok. Como madre, yo recomendaría que los maestros haya una comunicación con los padres que no hablan el inglés, ¿no? Tratar de buscar la manera como pueden ayudar a los niños. Los niños, la educación se trata de que yo siempre lo comparo como un chocolate. Cuando lo pruebas te va a gustar. Y de eso se trata la educación, de eso se trata el éxito, es el camino, es el futuro para ellos. experiencia en los maestros, quienes son realmente maestros. Yo respeto el trabajo, valoro mucho el trabajo de los maestros, no es fácil. No, con mi niña grande, con mi niña mayor, ha tenido maestros buenos, donde a las 9:30 de la noche o 9 de la noche te contestan el teléfono y tratan de ayudarte. Pero también hay maestros que nunca te contestan, así sea a las 8 de la mañana, 2 de la tarde, y no te contestan. Y por más que uno trata de mandar mensaje, porque a mí sí me importa la educación de mis hijos, y no los quiero dejar a un lado, ya que importa, ya después te ayudo. No lo quiero poner así. Mientras les guste el estudio, yo quiero ayudarlos a lo poco que yo sé. No hablo inglés. Entiendo un poquito, me defiendo, pero trato. También tuve una maestra que fue injusta con mi niña. También lo tomo como problema racial también, porque se escucha, a mí siempre me ha parecido feo cuando dice de color. Yo tomo esa palabra muy, muy fea, porque yo soy Sandra, mi hija es Aileen, fulana es Juana, como se llame, no color. Pero con ella fue de que pusieron sus notas de ella a otra persona. Sí. Ah, perdón.
Gracias. So, thank you so much for the.
Gracias, discúlpame.
Oh, no. And I think what I want to add, and I didn't see the
¿Puedo
notes.
seguir hablando, por favor?
Oh, sí.
Ajá. Sí. Nunca me ha gustado la palabra de color, porque cada quien tenemos un nombre, cada quien es como es y se respeta. Cada quien trae sus valores y sus costumbres. Pero en mí tuve una mala experiencia con mi hija mayor. Una maestra puso sus notas de ella a otro niño. Y era un niño blanco. Ella siempre obtuvo las mejores notas, siempre estuvo en los primeros puestos, en los concursos siempre ha ganado. Es porque uno la apoya. Entonces, ella, cada vez que yo quería hablar con la maestra, ¿por qué ella en sus notas, en las conferencias, siempre están bajas? Pero ella me decía que luego va a ver, que luego lo va a examinar o va a resolver ese problema. Pero pasaban días, pasaban meses, regresaban de las vacaciones y nunca lo hacía. Entonces, yo creo que también es eso. Tal vez la persona que tenga un puesto mayor tiene buenas ideas, buenos planes con los maestros, pero también tienen que fijarse de que los maestros lo cumplan y que realmente le guste su trabajo. Esos niños consideran a su maestro como la mitad de su vida, como parte de su familia, porque están más tiempo con ellos que con nosotros. Y eso te queda en tu mente, te queda como un recuerdo especial, porque yo así lo considero mis maestras. Eran muy estrictas, pero tenía razón en sus palabras. Muchas gracias.
Sí, de nada. I think thank you so much for translating. That's so hard to write and translate. But I think some of the things that I heard that I just want to repeat, it's so important to not assume that parents don't care about education. I hear this all the time. Having taught ELO and having taught families the adults don't speak English yet, I hear all the time in school spaces, they just don't care. They don't come because they don't care. And that's just not correct at all. They care so much about the education of their children and just want teachers who also care equally. And the other thing that you just said that I thought was really powerful is, children often spend more time with their teachers than they do with their families. And so that teacher becomes part of the family. And so how important it is, the community that's created. So, wow, thank you so much for sharing that so much. Oh, yes. So why don't you Sandra, we have a teacher that wants to connect with you. Would you be willing to share your email so that we have a teacher on here who would like to support you? That's so fabulous.
Sí, claro que sí. Ahorita les digo.
Yay. Gracias to both of you.
Sí, sí.
Gracias. Awesome. Okay. So any other questions? Maya, do you have any questions as a student that you would have for educators or leaders?
Yeah, I've just sort of, as we've been talking, I'm kind of reflecting on my own high school experience since it's so fresh, and just kind of realizing how separated the student body was from ELL.
Yes.
And I think that is a big indicator of why, I mean, a lot of you have been talking about how it's hard to get your students to, you know, commit to doing their work, or they don't want to come to school. And it's, you know, partially it could be due to the fact that they don't feel like they belong. They don't feel like they're a part of that school culture like everyone else is. And so I guess it's open-ended question, or however you want to interpret it, is how can you as educators or as administrators sort of create an environment where you can unify everyone, right? And this doesn't just go for ELL, right? There's bridges and there's gaps in communication, but there's also gaps in ability, right? With special education, and there's so many different groups on campus. But I think especially with ELL, because of that language barrier, it's more difficult to find that unity. And so it's something that you know, I don't really know the answer to the question, but sort of how can we work towards that and create a school culture that welcomes everyone regardless of background, language, ability, because that will inherently lead to better performance from the students.
Yeah, thank you. So anyone have thoughts about that? What Maya just shared? And just go ahead and unmute yourself and share thoughts that you have. How do we create unity in spaces where there are so many different kinds of students with needs and language needs and academic learning needs?
Hi, it's Sophia again.
Yes.
I'm like Cassandra. My English is not so.
It's good. You're doing a great.
You know, I really cultural. I can say, like Cassandra said, our kids just attach with the teachers.
Yeah.
So I'm the one going to 2 days to school is two choice that they give us, and so two days to school, and I one day with a teacher in our own culture. Is one proportion that I said. I don't know, will be so good for the kids and for us as parents. You know, I will feel support about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Good. So just to make sure I understand, you're suggesting that if you could have anything, you would want a teacher that understands your culture, that shares your culture and your language, that your children can go to school and see themselves in their teacher. Is that what? Okay.
Yes. Yes, and keep a relationship with the parents. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
go ahead. Yep.
I have a question for Sophia.
Yes.
How, you know, if you want your teachers to get to know your culture, what are you doing in your end? How are you supporting them to get to know your culture?
You know, I'm a leader from church. I'm the United Methodist Church. And since I've been there, I've been having teach them congregation, the Caucasian congregation, my culture. You know, I try to celebrate every day that we have festival day on my culture. I'm Mexican. So I introduce them those kind of things in church. I haven't had the opportunity in the community because it's a hard work, I will tell you. But yeah, I do that.
Okay. Thank you.
And let me tell you something. I try to involve in the school, but I think because my English, they prefer to choose another people. So I feel like kind of, oh, right now is not for you. It wasn't a festival, and
How
I
do
feel
you know
so
that?
bad.
How do you know that, Sophia?
Because I told the principal and I told the principal, I'm here because I want to volunteer, and they said, okay, let's wait. So they choose another people, and I go again. How can I help you? And said, okay, just wait. I'm going to tell you. And it happened like 30 minutes, and I said, okay, they don't need me. Okay, right, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you.
Yeah, some of the things that I have done before, you know, is to I'm an ESL person too, and I have done when I face situations like that is I have learned to don't assume, because sometimes it's not necessarily because we are white or brown or whatever, you know, it's because they sometimes don't know how to involve us. And sometimes I have to move a little bit further than that with the question and say, this is what I can do, instead of just offering, you know, myself and say, I'm here to support. This is just an idea. You don't need to do it, but it had worked for me.
Yeah, I think you're right, and because I have another position at you know, in the community, in the church, I just offer an hour's volunteer for them. So I think I need to think about to be more in. That's it. That's gonna say.
Well, I think everyone has come back to our room. So we have now been joined by 10 other groups. So thank you to the ELO group. Muchísimas gracias, Sandra. Y los otros, sí. We're coming back. Let's see. I think are we all back, April?
No, everyone's still coming back. They have 10 seconds before they'll be.
Got it.
I know. I hate
Let's add one quick thing about that. You guys were talking about Sophia. I think that our kids are allowed to share with our educators who they are and where they come from, and our educators allow space for
No, está bien, no hay problema. Está bien.
students know where they're from to teach about themselves, so we can all be learners together. That would be kind of just what I was thinking as I was listening to you guys.
So I don't know if you all heard that, because she was kind of, but Jessica, I'm going to try to channel you. I think because you were just, it was slow, just your Wi-Fi. But I think what she was saying is, what if we were all to learn from each other about our cultures, right? Just how beautiful that would be. Okay, I thought I was channeling you. You know, what if we created space in schools where students could safely and bravely share about who they are and bring all of themselves into the room? And then what if educators also, and that's really the beginning of equity for me, is being honest about your story and realizing we all have a story. And we don't come into the school space sanitary. Like, it's not this, it should be. We should all be able to bring our full selves. Yeah. So I see Dr. G is in the room. Dr. G is in the room. So be ready, Dr. G, because I'm about to call on you. But I just want to say thank you to all of the students. I think in the chat we have, can you pop the exit survey. Oh, there it is. The exit survey and the Root of Us survey are both in the chat, and we want to ask that you would participate in both. The exit survey is really an opportunity for you to share about this experience. And I just want to say again, this is our first time doing anything like this. And I'm kind of blown away that it even came together. We are all over the place. None of us have been in the same room together. Students, you are such rock stars. So thank you so much. So if you could share out in the exit survey, and then please, especially students and especially families, if you would take the Root of Us survey, we want to be able to center the stories of folks who have not had their stories shared. And the Root of Us survey is a really great way to do that and to gather honest feedback to share out with decision makers. Decision makers cannot possibly make good decisions if they're not connected to the people they're serving. And often they don't get to be just because of time and space. And so we really want to be a model for centering those voices in conversation and making sure that we get that back out. And then what I'd also like to add is we hope this will just be the beginning of many sessions. That we really didn't know if people would be interested at this level. And so now we see there's interest here. And so we hope to create other opportunities. So please stay in touch with us. As you finish your exit surveys and all that, we will have your email addresses and we'll be able to share out other opportunities, okay? On the call today, somebody asked who are decision makers. We have folks in the room on State Board of Education. We have folks in the room from the Professional Educator Standards Board, State Board of Education. I think I also saw we have some state lawmakers. I know Claire Wilson was in the House from the Senate. So we have lots of different folks here from both sides of our state. And then I saw Tennessee in the House today, Texas in the House today. So we have lots of people all over. And what I hope is we can begin some momentum. This is bigger than just Washington State. As Fernell and I have talked a lot, this pandemic has shut down everything, and we cannot afford to go back to business as usual. And so we're hoping that this movement will create a movement across the country. There's all sorts of other groups doing similar kinds of things, but we really want to be, to make sure decision makers, you're thinking about engaging people in a different way from now on. And especially with Zoom, there's no excuse to not engage people that you can't physically get to. So, Dr. G.
Erin, before we go to Dr. G, let's take a collective breath on what we got to experience and hear from students, and understand that we just went through some collective healing, because being able to be seen, heard, validated, visible is healing. And this is the first time that some of us have gotten to feel that. And so I want to just take a breath and take a moment on that to say, well done. Well done. And let's continue, another breath. And then Dr. G is going to round us out. Hit it with us, Doctor. Hit it.
Dr. G in the house.
Love it. Love it. My name is Rowan Garnett. Erin Jones, undisputed champion, has dubbed me Dr. G. I'm also a champion of the youth. Adults say children are the future, but that's not often reflected in our politics and policy behavior. The youth is saying in that video that we watched, for their future potential to be possible, it must be reflected in our presence. We, adults, know that children and teens have always known that only about 20% of what we say is how we mean. That other 80% of what and why you show how you feel. That's the total sum of human behavior. Let me be more intentional about how I feel. This is the spoken word entitled, Live Life Alive. Dear future leaders, scholars, and mentors, in my early childhood and teenage conversations with youthful prophets and our ancestors, their wisdom and courage introduced the idea of a personal purpose, how to live life alive. To be sure, a purpose is a dream or a wish that a person chooses to fulfill. This pursuit often fails. As the wiser and more courageous explained, people lose faith in their ability to fulfill their purpose as they grow older. The ancestors spoke in universal terms, explained the transformation that is relevant to everyone. Everyone understands their purpose at a young age. This is key. One's purpose requires the ability to dream and to believe in one's dreams, an ability common in children and teens. So many of us see how most adults lose this ability with time. They no longer believe dreams can become a reality. This fate is a familiar concept in books and life. Children are often understood to be idealistic and adults realistic. The young think anything is possible. Adults focus on smaller, more achievable goals. Many adults would say this is part of growing up. The young around me continue to remind me of this aspect of growing up. The adults around me continue to communicate that what is realistic is to give up on dreams, to give up on the chance to fulfill their purpose. Somehow, growing up and becoming worldly has become the mysterious force that changes a person and stops them from dreaming. Have goals, but never stop dreaming, even if you must adapt. Choose courage, Rowan, is what my youngest friends have continued to tell me. Courage is the way to understand the world. Special shout out to the student leaders, scholars, and mentors in her dopeness, all leader, scholar, and mentor, Erin Jones's virtual classroom. My wish is to follow you, student leaders, scholars, and mentors, and your generation into the future. If I had a superpower, I would make it this: that the collective and indivisible youthful courage we've always witnessed never stops marching in these streets. If I had a superpower, I'd make it possible for that youthful courage to march every single day into 2021 until the House and the Senate pass bills to guarantee equity. March until Congress demonstrates all human lives matter by demonstrating that Black lives matter. I would use my superpower for your generation to stop the USA and slow the world economies. This is what I wish, that you'll remind us adults what humanity looks, sounds, and feels like. For now, I'm following you, student leaders, scholars, and mentors, and your generation into the future, doing my small part to make it better, towards it, together, in oneness, to live life alive. That's always been my purpose, to work together with younger people, to inspire the hearts and minds of the next generations and the spirits of our ancestors, to touch the soul of our world. That's what the youth in the video are fighting for: their dignity, our humanity. They simply want us to be better, fairer to the past, so that the future will be better too. That's how I feel. I still feel what the youth in the video feels. Her dopeness dubbed me Dr. G. Many thanks. Fennell, what now? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Rowan. It's Heaven.
Hey, Heaven.
Okay, so that is a wrap. That's such a fabulous way to end this. Young people, thank you for just being you. Thank you for being brilliant. I want to close just by sharing my email. My signature on my email says the #1 job of every adult is to be a mirror to reflect the gifts and talents of the young people who come into our presence. I see you, young people. You're brilliant.
You.
You're brilliant and beautiful. Thank you to each one of you who showed up today. Thank you so much, April, for holding it down in the back. You're such a gift to each one of us. It's 2 o'clock. It's time to go. We'll see you at the next one, whatever that is. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
listening
guys.
to us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, amazing students. Thank you, families.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, thank you.
I see you crying, Miss Burnell.
Nice job, ladies. You're so amazing.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you all so much.
Thanks for coming.
Amazing. Thank you.
We definitely need more of this.
Come get it anytime. It's right here. All day, baby.
I get so
all
crying.
day.
All these tears everywhere. Of course. Oh.
You guys are amazing. I love you.
Oh, thank you, Tiffany. I love you.
The video you played at the very beginning, is it at all possible to get a